All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're digging into some really powerful reporting from sources like the New York Times, CNN, and Forbes. They're all looking at this incredible intersection of the U.S. presidency and a massive multi-billion-dollar family business. We're going to break down what these investigations are actually claiming, that the most powerful office in the world is being used for private gain on a scale they say we've just never seen before in modern American history.
So, to kick things off, just look at this phrase from the Atlantic magazine. They called the situation a wealth historischer Rob Überfall, which translates to a robbery of historic proportions. I mean, that one phrase, it really sets the stage for the sheer scale of what all these sources we're looking at today are alleging.
And if you want to put a number on it, well, here you go. A calculation from the New Yorker estimates the Trump family's wealth shot up by $3.5 billion. And get this, that's in just the first 6 months of the current presidential term. The really wild part? The vast majority of this cash explosion, it's not from real estate. It's from brand new crypto ventures that were launched while in office.
So, you have to be asking, how in the world is this kind of wealth being generated so quickly? Well, our first section, which is based on reporting from CNN, looks at the alleged use of regulatory power, using the government's muscle to quiet down critics and help out allies, really blurring those lines between official action and just doing what you're told.
Okay, so this slide breaks down a chain of events that CNN reported on, and it suggests a pretty clear pattern. First, you have the threat. President Trump publicly floats the idea that news networks he doesn't like could lose their broadcast licenses. Step 2, the action. His hand-picked FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, publicly calls out a specific critic, Jimmy Kimmel, and tells stations to stop airing his show. And then, step 3, the result. Major companies that have billions of dollars in deals waiting for government approval, well, they seem to get the message.
And here's where you can really see the potential conflicts of interest, according to the reporting. These companies weren't just being criticized out of the blue. Nexstar, which is the biggest owner of local TV stations in the country, needed the FCC to sign off on a massive $6.2 billion deal, a deal that actually required changing an existing rule to even happen. And at the exact same time, Disney, which owns ABC, was waiting for the Trump Justice Department to approve a huge sports streaming merger. So the reporting suggests they had, literally, billions of reasons to not get on the wrong side of the White House.
Okay, so first, the sources point to using existing government power. But the next part of their investigation is about creating entirely new businesses from scratch, multi-billion-dollar ventures reportedly launched from right inside the White House.
To really get this, you have to look at this timeline. It's kind of stunning. Back in 2019, Donald Trump was a huge crypto skeptic. He called it not money and said its value was based on thin air. Fast forward to 2022, and he's launching his own NFTs. Then, by 2024, he does a complete 180, running on a platform to be the crypto president. It's a massive shift that sources like the New York Times say was really pushed by his sons, who saw a gigantic financial opportunity.
And that opportunity, according to the reports, really boiled down to two big ideas. First, launch a meme coin to cash in on all that speculative hype. And second, a much bigger, much more ambitious project. Create a crypto bank called World Liberty Financial.
So the meme coin launch, on paper, it was an absolutely astronomical success. At its peak, the value of the family's own holdings in the coin hit an estimated $58 billion. Let me just put that in perspective for you. At that moment, that one single crypto venture made up roughly 90% of the president's entire estimated net worth.
But, okay, how do you get a coin like that to take off? Well, according to the investigative reports, one of the strategies was basically selling access. The top 25 investors in the coin were invited to a private dinner and an exclusive VIP tour of the White House. And this wasn't just some small perk. One crypto entrepreneur reportedly put in $16 million just for the chance to be there. This, of course, raises some pretty serious questions about whether access to the president was effectively for sale.
Now, moving past the meme coin, the family's biggest and frankly most complex crypto project is this dive into the world of stable coins with their company, World Liberty Financial. And this is where the lines between a private business and the global financial system start to get really, really blurry. So first, let me give you a quick crash course so this all makes sense. A stablecoin is a kind of digital token that's designed to always be worth exactly $1. The concept is pretty simple. For every digital coin they issue, the company is supposed to hold one real US dollar in a bank somewhere as a reserve. Think of it like a digital bridge between regular money and the crypto world.
Okay, so here's the crucial part. You don't make money from the coin's value changing. The business model is actually pretty straightforward. If you can get people to give you, say, $2 billion real dollars for $2 billion of your digital tokens, you can just park that $2 billion in a bank and collect interest on it. With a conservative 4% interest rate, that's $80 million a year in pure profit, just for holding other people's money. And the growth of their stablecoin, which they called USD1, was just incredibly fast, according to the data. This chart says it all. It took Tether, which is the biggest player in the game, 4 full years to get to a $2 billion market cap. The Trump family's USD1, according to reports, did it in just 90 days. So how on earth did that happen?
Well, that question brings us to a huge investigation by the New York Times. And what they found connects the family's private crypto business to a really high-stakes international deal. We're talking about advanced AI technology and a key U.S. ally in the Middle East.
Just look at this timeline laid out by the New York Times. It's pretty stark. In May of 2025, an investment firm from the United Arab Emirates, which is linked to their government, pumps $2 billion into the Trump family's private company, World Liberty Financial. And then, just 2 weeks later, the Trump White House greenlights a massive deal giving that same country, the UAE, access to hundreds of thousands of those super valuable AI chips, which was a complete reversal of the previous U.S. policy.
And the investigation really zeroes in on these key players who were wearing 2 hats at the same time. You had Steve Witkoff, who is serving as Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, the guy pushing for the chip deal, while also being a co-founder of the very same company that got the $2 billion Emirati investment. Then there's David Sachs, the White House's AI and crypto czar, who was right in the middle of the government talks, even though his own venture capital firm was backed by a fund from Abu Dhabi. Ethics experts quoted by the Times called these kinds of overlapping roles a flagrant violation of norms we've had for a very long time.
So, what's the big picture here? What's the major takeaway from this really complicated web of business deals, government policy, and family ties? Well, the sources we've been looking at seem to suggest this might be a fundamental reshaping of what the presidency even is.
According to a Forbes analysis, the very foundation of the president's wealth has been completely transformed. Think about it. After a 50-year career building a real estate empire, now the majority of his fortune, about 60% of it, is reportedly tied to these brand new crypto businesses. Businesses that his own administration is in charge of regulating.
And really, the consensus among the ethicists and journalists cited in these reports is pretty clear. The New York Times puts it bluntly, saying this whole situation has basically erased the line between private enterprise and government policy. They say it's set aside centuries-old presidential norms and created a situation that is, quote, unparalleled in modern U.S. history.
So, the sources we've looked at today, they lay out these events, and they leave us with a really fundamental question. When the traditional walls that are supposed to separate private profit from public power just come down, what are the consequences for accountability? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.